This meeting is magical and eludes comprehension. Magic understanding is what one calls non-comprehension. So I'm going to cut through this in a minute. Everything that works magically is incomprehensible, and the incomprehensible often works magically. One calls incomprehensible workings magical. The magical surrounds me, always involves me. It opens spaces that have no doors and leads out into the open where there's no exit. The magical is good and evil, and neither good nor evil. Magic is dangerous since what accords with unreason confuses, allures, and provokes, and I'm always its first victim. So we can go on, but what are we talking about? So we have a context and don't just get bored. Dealing with, we know what reason is, but what is magic? Anybody have, in one word, it's a one word. What it, dear? What?
Unreason.
That's a theoretical word, but it's not magic. It invites magic. Alchemy. Alchemy is magic. And why is alchemy magic? Because it changes you without your knowing it. We have learned in dreaming how to do magic. But doing magic for someone requires that they be the object of the magic, and therefore they must be in places of what? Well, unreasonableness is what?
Feelings.
Feelings. Thank you, Deb. Thank you. It's the feeling component of second stage dreaming that leads you to advanced second stage, which we understand as the alchemy. First stage is about being in the desert, right? Second stage is dropping into the horrors of trauma. And the advanced work is the alchemy, the transformation of consciousness. What he's talking about is trying to speak to an audience of stage 1 clients who live above their, what we understand, feelings. Not the feelings that you would equate with your experience of feelings, but the feelings that are underneath those feelings. We understand the feelings above the real feelings we call emotions. Carl is calling it, for the time being, since nobody really understands in that time, or he is unwilling to take that step, to equate feelings and feelings and emotions, he just basically says that it's the place of unreasoning. Now, you know, and this is really critical, that to feel a feeling from a place of unknowing means you have the feeling without what?
Story.
Without projection, which creates the story, Joe. But it's the projection that the mind uses to interpret the feeling that we really don't know why it's there. So he is to invite you into the deeper dream of the feeling that you can't know is what this is all about. My opinion. So let's see how it goes on. And understanding these, how we're looking at what he's saying. So putting these in this way, let's look. The meaning is magical and eludes comprehension. Magical understanding is what one calls non-comprehension. Can you comprehend a feeling? No. It eventually has a story, but not initially. Because it has nothing to do with this life. Although we find ways to say, I feel this pain because of that. I feel this fear because of this. And actually, it's wrong. Although if you're extremely traumatized in this life, yeah, there's truth to it. But there isn't truth to it because that feeling became before even this life. Everything that works magically is incomprehensible, meaning alchemy cannot be known but only experienced through a place of consciousness, redeeming consciousness, which is a healing process that raises and gives you a different knowing. A different knowing, not a different thinking, a different experience of reality, which is incomprehensible. If you comprehend it, it isn't it. Because that's not how you learn it. But when you learn it inside, you cannot speak of it. The old man cannot speak of it. Because it would then be understood, and by virtue of being understood, being misunderstood. So why do we write 5 books, 10 books? Why is he writing this? You know? To be misunderstood, unfortunately. If you simply bring your dream experience through this work, as Carl really lives it, you would understand everything he's saying. Everything that works magically is incomprehensible. That the incomprehensible often works magically, which is alchemy. What you can't know will heal you. When we reach out to God and ask for healing, we define that in terms of our comprehension. Therefore, God doesn't answer us. Because it's not on that level that we experience God. Even though we think we do. One calls incomprehensible workings magical. The magical always surrounds me, always involves me. What does he know? He has been alchemized. He understands the presence of a power that is transforming him. And he is allowing it. When your therapist says, feel this in relationship to that, and you drop into it, you're out of your mind. And then if you live that way in the world, you're out of your mind. That's another challenge, by the way. People sometimes do great inner work, but then they have to deal with the world, and they immediately have to deal with the world from a place of comprehension. Or so they think. And often spaces that have no doors leads out into the open where there's no exit. Meaning only that it's vertical. It doesn't have doors and windows like in the world. It's in the fourth dimension of psyche, of the consciousness. The magical is good and evil, and neither good or evil. Magic is dangerous since what accords with unreason confuses, allures, and provokes. I am always its first victim. Well, we understand this because we die in alchemy. 2 becomes 3, becomes 4, becomes 2. When 3 becomes 4, and 4 becomes 2, what happened to the other 2? It died.
It's magic.
Therefore, I'm a victim. No. Where reason abides, one needs no magic. In other words, when you're thinking, you don't need the alchemy. The world thinks, therefore it doesn't need the magic. I had a conversation with a client, with a therapist, one of our students, and he said, how am I doing in the work? And I said, well, your clients are growing. I see progress. But you do not understand the creation of magic. You're doing the right things and magic is created. And the therapist said to me, the training therapist said, student said, you're right. I don't understand magic. I see that it happens. But I'm just too much in my mind to really be more privy with it. Even though I know that it's happening to me, it eludes me to really be a better support. And I said, you understand where I've yet to teach you. But his reaction had been earlier, how he was competent beyond all the other students. Why did he still need my support? Competency is reason. Consistency. It is not magic. Doing a good, competent job and stumbling in the mere world of magic and things happening or not happening is not the alliance that the old man carries in his heart. That Carl talks about, it's in you and out you, it's all around you, you have to die to it. Where reason abides, one needs no magic. Hence, our time no longer needs magic. Only those without reason need it to replace their lack of reason. But it's thoroughly unreasonable to bring together what suits reason for magic, since they have nothing to do with one another. Both become spoiled through being brought together. So even though his reason and his intelligence allowed him to produce magic, he felt isolated in the process rather than part of it, which would mean that if you're doing magic, your magic's also being done to you. When you're working alchemy with a person, you are also having to be alchemized. You cannot stand aloof from your client and be the doctor. You must be the person being transformed in the moment that you are in the magic helping others. This is a very hard learning, because we always want to identify with being the doctor, therefore being the one with reason, when the only one that knows anything, that produces magic, is neither the therapist or the client. It's the archetypal support which Carl called anima and animus. Therefore, all those lacking reason quite rightly fall to superfluity and disregard. A rational man of thus time will therefore never use magic. It's another thing for whoever has opened the chaos in himself. We need magic to be able to receive or invoke the messenger and the communication of the incomprehensible. Open the chaos in himself. What's chaos? Trauma. Past lives. The unknown and unknowable of the traveling soul through lifetimes. Not the life that we perceive now since childhood. That is not the life he's talking about. The life he's talking about, we don't remember. We can remember if we give up our reason. But how will we remember it? Well, we know in the dream work it comes in a dream. If you feel that chaos, you will have a past life dream. If you do not feel it, and you're given a past life dream, it goes right to your head. What the hell good is it? Some of you have waited many, many years to have a past life dream. Why did it take so long? Because you weren't able to feel it. If it was given to you, it would just be a story that your mind would then use. That's the problem with past lives. It's just another story. But when a dream gives a past life, it truly happened, and you're truly ready to receive it. Something that doesn't take place very quickly. In the cases where it does, it's already because the feelings are already out for that person. The person suffers from the trauma from the past life, and therefore they're ready to understand the source of the suffering. So we need magic to be able to receive or invoke the messenger, which is who?
The honor.
The animus. And the communication of the incomprehensible, which is the archetypal world. We recognize that the world comprises reason and unreason, and we also understood that our way needs not only reason, but also unreason. But he's saying that's not it. Reason and unreason are two sides of the same thing. It's the incomprehensible meaning of feeling in alchemy that is the consciousness that lives in us and wants to change us. So when you were saying it's unreason, you bought the lie. He opens the door to chaos. He opens the door to feelings, really. Unknown feelings. Unknown reality. The distinction is arbitrary between reason and unreason and depends upon the level of comprehension. But one can be certain the greater part of the world eludes our understanding. We must value the incomprehensible and unreasonable equally, although they are not necessarily equal in themselves. Incomprehensible is different than unreasonable. Certainly, this work is unreasonable, but moreover, it's incomprehensible. And there lies the brilliance. There lies the miracle. So when we first encounter the dream, it's always incomprehensible. Very few dreamers can find their meaning of their own dream. Unfortunately. Raising consciousness about dreams is a great step in what we're bringing to the world, but how well will people be able to get beneath their own egos to understand the incomprehensible is probably not possible without help. Although they are not necessarily equal in themselves, a part of the incomprehensible, however, is only presently incomprehensible and might already concur with reasons tomorrow. But as long as one does not understand it, it remains unreasonable. As long as one does not understand it, it remains unreasonable. Insofar as the incomprehensible accords with reason, one may try to think it with success. But insofar it is unreasonable, one needs magical practices to open it up. Again, to know nothing is not enough. Magical practices. What is he alluding to?
Dreams.
Dreams. That's all Carl's about. Notice he doesn't say dreams. But you know he's a dream guy. But he's not pushing the agenda. Well, why? Well, Sigmund Freud does dreams. Right? So if he says dreams, people think interpretation, not alchemy, not transcendence, not the miracle of the force be with you miracle. But that force really does exist. Unfortunately, for us, we can't control it, and it would have nothing to do with us until we prepare ourselves. What does stage 1 dreaming do? Prepares ourselves. The practice of magic consists in making what is not understood understandable in an incomprehensible manner. Tell me that isn't the definition of what we experience in alchemy. Something happens to us that then we understand because we've been changed in some way that is no longer horizontal or linear or thinking. Until you're changed, you can't know it. It's got to affect you. It's got to do something to you that is different than what we are. That's the nature of the separation. The magical way is not arbitrary, since that would be understandable. But it arises from the incomprehensible grounds. Besides, to speak of grounds is incorrect, since grounds concur with reason. Nor can one speak of groundless, since hardly anything further can be said about this. The magical way arises by itself. If one opens up chaos, that's the therapeutic tool, magic arises. How do we open up chaos? We read a dream. The dream opens us up step by step and reduces our mind to ashes. Until then, we struggle in the work. One can teach the way that leads to chaos, but one cannot teach magic. Exactly. We can help opening up to chaos through dreams, but once the magic starts, it happens without the therapist. The therapist can jumpstart the process if the dream pieces are there, but can do no more. If it catches, things happen. If it doesn't, you wait to the next dream. The therapist is not responsible for the miracle of magic. His or her job is to do the dreams and prepare the person for that to happen. Then you just sit back and watch the show. If you feel you're going to intend it and you're going to push it and you're going to force it, which some of you do, you're only damaging your client. If you do that, you'd better be a true teacher of that person. And few of you are, until you understand your role and become like the old man, like air, like wind for your client. One can teach the way that leads to chaos, but one cannot teach magic. One can only remain silent about this, which seems to be the best apprenticeship. The view is confusing, but this is what magic is like. What reason establishes order and clarity. Magic causes disarray and lack of clarity. Well, what happens is when you start to go through the alchemy, you start to disassociate from your life as you know it. Your ideas, your friends, your family, your thinking, even your desires can be affected profoundly. One indeed needs reason for the magical translation of the not understood into the understandable, since only by means of reason can the understandable be created. No one can say how to use reason, but it does arise if one tries to express only what an opening of chaos means. So what does this mean? It means that the mind has a role. As an afterthought, as a receptacle for understanding something we feel. That's the mind's job. It's meant to be a container, not to be the knower. The container of the magic is the container of one's heart, one's feelings, one's soul. Children understand that, but rapidly are taught and develop out of it. We must come back in and find that way. That's why children in our dreams are always part of the alchemical miracle. Well, I take care of my kid in the dream. No. You must become the child in your dream. Taking care of is merely another way of separation and your ego feeling you're superior because you're the adult. In a dream where you're taking care of the kid, you're simply the fool who doesn't listen to his own soul, even if you're loving and caring. The biggest trap of all. I'm so loving. That must be good, right? I was loving this child. I saved this child from the watery grave. I did all these things. Magic is a way of living. If one has done one's best to steer the chariot, then one then notices that a greater other is actually steering it. The greater other is God, the archetypes, but that's not enough. That's just a concept. The greater other is the miracle of alchemy that occurs from the impetus and desire of the divine when you're ready and when it's ready. I might sit with years with clients and wonder, well, get on it already. But I don't do that anymore because after 40 years, I've learned, well, in hindsight, of course they couldn't. Of course they wouldn't. But in that moment of sincerity and the client's really wanting to grow and you want the client to grow and you become impatient. Get on with it already. All of my students say that. I used to say that. But I'm now old. And I know better. I've seen the folly because you're asking the mind to get on with it.